Principle of sensations is all about sensations and perceptions. Sensation is the process when our sensory receptors receive information from the environment to the body. And perception is the process of organizing and interpreting this information in our brain. This starts with bottom up processing. That is when our sensory receptors receive that information from or that stimulus energy from the environment and analyzes it and sends that information to the brain. Top down processing is when once that information is in our brain, it goes to a higher level of thinking that leads to expectations and experience. So let's say, for example, you went to cook and you turn on the stove and you accidentally touch the stove and it burned your finger. So your bottom up processing will be that your finger felt the heat, felt the burn, and felt the pain, and says that information to your brain saying like, oh, you got burned. And then the information in your brain, it goes to a higher level of mental thinking, and you say to yourself, I got burned because I touched the stove and it was hot. I must be careful next time so I won't burn myself again. There is also selective attention, and then selective attention is your ability to focus on one thing. From this comes cocktail party effect, and that is when you're able to discern a voice among many other voices. So let's say you're in a supermarket with your mom and your mom calls your name. You are able to discern her voice even though there's like 20 more people talking around. We also have inattentional blindness, and that is when we fail to see objects around us. So let's say you're in the living room and watching a movie, and you're so focused on that movie that you don't see the things that are surrounding you. One form of inattentional blindness is change blindness, and that is when you fail to see a change in your environment. So let's say you're watching that movie and you were watching it with your mom, but you were so focused that you didn't see your mom leaving the room to go to sleep. Psychophysics is the study of our relationship with a physical stimulus and our experience with that physical stimulus. From this comes absolute threshold, and absolute threshold is the minimum we need to be able to perceive a stimulus. Like for example, a minimum for you to perceive a watch ticking should be at least 20 feet away from you. More than that, maybe you won't perceive it, but at least 20 feet would be the minimum. There's also signal detection theory, and that's the theory of predicting how and when we're able to perceive a really weak stimulus from its environment. So like for example, you're with your parents in the car and your parents notice a strange noise coming from the car, and they might even notice it even if the radio is on, the air conditioner is on. Even if there's so many voices around, they're still able to detect that strange noise. There's also subliminal stimulation, and subliminal stimulation is when we're able to perceive a stimulus even though we're not aware of it. So I hope this example makes sense to you. So sometimes when I'm studying, I suddenly start dancing, like moving around. And then I ask myself, like, why are you dancing? Like, Nanny, why are you dancing? And then when I think about it, I realize that it's because one neighbor turned on the radio. So what I'm trying to say is that even though I'm focused on my studying, my ears were still able to perceive that sound from outside, and my body reacted to it. From this comes priming, and priming is a technique to increase sensitivity towards a stimulus and influence a response to that stimulus. So like say for example, the people that make Sprite, they make these ads on TV. So to influence and response to you, to make you feel like you want Sprite and go buy it. We also have we also have difference of threshold, and that is and difference of threshold is when is the minimum of difference we need to perceive a change in a stimulus. So, like for example, you're drinking a water bottle, and as you drink it, you little by little you will notice the difference of volume of the water bottle as you're holding it. So Weber's law goes along with difference threshold, but what Weber's law says is to be able to perceive that difference, the stimulus had to change by a constant percentage. So let's say you have the water bottle and you take 1 or 2 sips, you will notice a difference because there isn't a lot of difference. But if you drink half of the water bottle, then there you will notice the difference of volume because you drank a large amount. So the last thing is sensory adaptation, and that is when our senses are exposed to a very strong stimulus, whether it is a loud sound, a high temperature, or a strong smell, but it's been exposed to it for a long time that our senses get used to it. So let's say you have a friend that has a guy friend that has a strong perfume, and you know men's perfume are very strong. So maybe in the beginning you feel like you want to sneeze and your nose feel funny, but as you spend time with your friend, you get used to that smell.